put today's date, put extra credit list, and then put your name on it and pass that around. Everyone who's here will get extra credit. You don't even have to write a one-page summary. Okay, pass it on, and I'll make sure I get that list. Okay, another extra credit opportunity. Participation in a capstone project. So as long as you are not, how many of you are currently doing capstone? Raise your hand. So those of you who are currently doing capstone, how many of you are in Mr. Pickering's section? You are? And you are as well? Are you in the same class with that gentleman right there? Okay, but you are in the same class. Okay, so you're disqualified. Sorry. But anyone else, if you want to sign up for a time, it takes about 20 minutes, is that correct? If you participate in this capstone project or any other capstone project, and you'll write a one-page summary of your experience, that'll be worth 2 points of extra credit. I'm going to go ahead and pass this sheet around. Are you in the same section as him? Okay, so you know the project. If you know the project, you can't sign up for it. Okay. So that's an extra credit opportunity. In addition, here's another extra credit opportunity. On, I believe, the 30th of October. I think that's right. So that's a Thursday. I think that's the Thursday before Halloween. Site Club will be having a meeting, and there's going to be a presentation on the psychology of Halloween. If you attend that and write a little one-page summary, that will be worth 2 points of extra credit. Now, later on in the semester, we're going to have some speakers coming in psychology, speakers coming, job applicants. When they do their presentations, that will also be an opportunity. Okay? Okay. Any questions? It's the 30th. I do not know what time. You should get an email from Site Club giving you exactly what time it's at. Anyone in here in Site Club that knows the date?
They said 30.
They did say the 30th. Do you know what time?
I would say.
So it could be 6 o'clock on the 30th. And there might be refreshments and things like that, so we probably have to do it. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, let's go and get started. So of all days to have such a short, small group of people, today we're talking about schizophrenia. This is madness. This is the psychopathology. This is the granddaddy or grandmommy of all mental illnesses. Schizophrenia, primary symptom of schizophrenia is what? Exactly right, psychosis. Visual, auditory, tactile, gustatory, olfactory hallucinations. By the way, with the completion of today's material, we will have completed all the material for exam number 2. Exam number 2 will be on Tuesday. Please note that 1 week from today we have no class. On the 23rd there is no class. Okay? So today we're going to be watching the biography of John Nash. That will take 55 minutes of class. There will be questions on the exam, up to and possibly including an entire essay based on John Nash. So make sure you pay close attention to the video that we're going to watch on John Nash. How many of you have seen A Beautiful Mind? So a few of you have seen A Beautiful Mind. Great movie, Ron Howard production. Russell Crowe starring as John Nash. Of course, it's a Hollywood bastardization of the real story. You'll see when you watch the real biography sort of what meshes versus what doesn't mesh from the movie. I do highly recommend the movie. It's a great movie. Jennifer Connelly, Ed Harris, Russell Crowe, and again, directed by Ron also Grover was the best actor possibly. Anyway, it's the story of schizophrenia. So be sure to watch that. Or pay attention when you watch that. It's up to watch. Okay. It does. It's called what? The Rake's Progress. Oops, that was a bit fast. The Rake's Progress. Remember, this was a plate that depicted what? The asylum. This was a picture from Bedlam. And remember the guilty secret, here's these two debutantes walking around, looking at the depraved, looking at the mentally ill, sort of like we might go to a zoo to look at the animals in the zoo. So, schizophrenia began from the diagnosis of dementia praecox. Emil Krapin coined the term dementia praecox, and really that was the start of the DSM system. Really was with the work of Emil Krapin. And it was delusion. It was psychosis. It was being out of touch with reality. Schizophrenia is sometimes mistaken for multiple personality disorder. So people will talk about dissociative identity disorder like the schizophrenia because of schizo, which means split, and phrenia meaning sort of mind or mind related. So it is split mind, but it is not split mind in the sense that there are split personalities. It is split mind in the sense that the mind is split from reality. Okay. That is schizophrenia. How common is schizophrenia? About what? Exactly. About 1 out of 100 people would present with schizophrenia. So, is that common or uncommon? Pretty common. Relative to a lot of medical disorders, that's actually pretty common. When does it typically present itself? Exactly right. Young adult, early on. So, you hear about a 60-year-old all of a sudden presenting with psychosis, that would be very unusual. Okay. Hear about a 5-year-old presenting with psychosis, that would also be very unusual. It would also be sort of hard to determine whether it was not just imagination or childlike. So usually late teens, early 20s is where we're typically going to see schizophrenia manifest itself. Now, interestingly enough, might there be an environmental element to that? Why might there be an environmental element to that?
Substance abuse and just general child abuse.
Well, that's definitely true. But what else? Exactly right. That's when a person basically goes through kind of the biggest stress of their life, assuming there isn't some sort of child abuse or something like that, where they're making the transition to adulthood, right? Where all of a sudden they're leaving the nest, so to speak. And so for some people, that stress, think of the diathesis stress model, is enough to then instigate their first psychotic break or psychotic episode. Oh yeah. And here's basically a graph showing what we were just talking about. So, looking at both males and females, and where we see the presentation of schizophrenia and the onset of schizophrenia, we see that for both males and females, the biggest spike is here, late teens, early 20s, and then becomes far less common later on in life. Although there is this interesting spike right here in women. Anyone have a guess what that might be? Might be related to menopause. So there is this odd spike in women right there. But generally speaking, look, it's almost in absentia in sort of the later years. And interestingly enough, we'll see kind of a similar pattern for John Nash when we watch the John Nash movie. Okay. So let's take just a second or two to talk about schizophrenia in general. I don't want you to worry about the type 1, type 2 classifications of schizophrenia. I'm not going to test on those, and I'm not going to talk about those. But I am going to talk about positive and negative symptoms of schizophrenia. Positive and negative negative reinforcement does not have anything to do with good or bad, so discard that notion. A positive symptom of schizophrenia is something that a schizophrenic person presents with that a normal person doesn't present with. That's a positive symptom of schizophrenia, such as auditory hallucinations. That's a positive symptom of schizophrenia. Conversely, a negative symptom of schizophrenia is something that a schizophrenic person doesn't have that a normal person does have. So, catatonic schizophrenia, which we'll talk about here in just a minute, is a schizophrenia that, among other things, is characterized by movement problems. Okay? So you could say that a negative symptom of catatonic schizophrenia is the inability to engage in normal movement. Okay? So a person with catatonic schizophrenia may be statuesque, so they just stand still like this all the time. That's catatonic schizophrenia with its statuesque presentation. So we could say a negative symptom is that they don't have normal movement. However, you can also use movement problems as an example of a positive symptom. So a person with catatonic schizophrenia who sort of moves like this and walks like this, we could say that that strange movement is a positive symptom as well. So can you see how there's a little bit of play there? I'm blanking on your first name for some reason. Rachel. Rachel sent me a really interesting link to a CNN production featuring Anderson Cooper, where he goes through a schizophrenia simulation. And the simulation is an auditory hallucination simulation where he listens to pseudo sounds, pseudo voices, and tries to engage in his regular day-to-day activity while he's hearing all of these voices like a person with schizophrenia might hear. And sort of describes his experience with it. There's also, on the same link, a sample where you can actually listen to a sampling of auditory hallucinations. Now these auditory hallucinations, or these pseudo-hallucinations that were created, were based on descriptions made by patients of the kinds of things that they hear. And so it's actually quite interesting. I am not going to go to that link right now, but that is an active link, and I do encourage you to go check it out. It's quite interesting. And it's quite disturbing. And you can see from the link, from what you hear in the link, how disruptive it would be to just constantly be hearing this kind of thing. Now, auditory hallucinations are the most common type of hallucinations. Visual hallucinations are the second most common type. So most people who suffer from schizophrenia suffer from auditory hallucinations. They may or may not have visual hallucinations. Now, we're going to see that John Nash had both. That's both auditory and visual hallucinations. Now, check out this picture. This is a picture that I showed before on a previous slide. Now, what does this guy look like to you? He looks like a homeless person, exactly right. Intentional, because a lot of the people who are legitimately homeless suffer from schizophrenia. Now, did any of you catch the article? It was on MSNBC, Yahoo. It was recently in the news about a quote-unquote homeless woman who was panhandling, and then later a person who had given her money saw her at the gas station driving a new Fiat. Did any of you catch that? I mean, you could go on YouTube and watch it. You know, the guy confronts you, he's like, hey, I didn't eat lunch because of you. I gave you all my lunch money, and she's driving like a 2013 or 2014 Fiat. And so he's like, you got a credit card and I have. So anyway, that was a complete fraud. She wasn't really homeless. Legitimately homeless people, many of them are schizophrenic. Okay. Okay, so now let's talk about, one more here. Yeah, okay. Schizophrenic individuals often exhibit disturbances of associative thinking. Now, what is associative thinking? Associative thinking is connecting ideas, correctly connecting ideas. So, let me give you an example of that. So very often, people who are paranoid, and the most common type of schizophrenia or subtype of schizophrenia is paranoid schizophrenia. Very often they have disturbed associations of thought that contribute to their paranoia. So for example, I look back here, and I see you're wearing that hat again. That was the same hat you were wearing last week. And I think I told you before that red, I despise the color red. So you're intentionally wearing that red hat to upset me, aren't you? Didn't I mention something about the bill of the hat too? I don't like a straight bill. So see, keep doing this on purpose. You agree? Wait, are you just agreeing with me because you're trying to get something out? See, that's all examples of disturbed associative thinking, right? Where you're mixing up ideas or you're confusing thoughts, typically to support some ongoing psychosis. Disturbance of thought content. So you may actually, now often the disturbances are a result of hallucinations. So I may see all of you, but I may also see other people sitting in class, like ghosts, for example. I see dead people in class. I'm teaching dead people. The dead people usually do better on exams than a lot of people do for some reason. So that would be obviously a disturbance of thought content. Disturbances of perception, so again, sort of seeing things that aren't really there. And emotional dysfunction. Very often these folks are emotionally blunted and or emotionally inappropriate. So they will be extremely labile in their emotions, where their emotions go way up and way down, or they may just be completely dead. So think of that statuesque person I was talking about before. They're just completely dead. Someone in here saw the movie Awakenings. You saw the movie Awakenings. Awakenings depicts, among other things, people with, at least Dr. Sayer, the main character, believe, advanced Parkinson's disease. So Parkinson's disease, of course, is characterized by shaking and tremors. Think of Michael J. Fox. Well, Dr. Sayer, the main character, played by Robin Williams in that movie, came to believe that these people who were basically frozen were suffering from advanced Parkinson's, where instead of tremoring, it's like their tremors that advance to the point that they just stop. They have no emotional expression. And for a brief period of time, they took the drug L-Dopa, which gave them a window where they awakened. Title of the book, excellent. And the movie, hence the title and an excellent book, I think, of the movie. So be sure to watch it. That's where people are. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, what? Okay. So there's another real beaut there.